Hello, welcome to this video on A-Level Media Theorists. I am working from the WJC exam board, but this could be applicable for other exam boards. I do want to just say before you watch the video, this isn't perfect definitions for each theorist, but it's kind of what I've just kind of summarised. So if you're struggling with the theorists and you need a way to break them down that is kind of quick and easy before the exam, this is a good video for you. So we're going to start off with media language theories. I've got a few here paper reference because I've got papers with notes in front of me to help me. So we have probe character theory. In the case studies that I've done, I've not had to use this theory, but it is quite important to know if you are using one and you're trying to identify character archetypes. So we've got damsel, who's preferably the woman. You could even use this in the Kiss of the Vampire one. You'd be like, oh, the woman is conforming to Probe's character theory because she is a damsel who needs rescuing by her male counterpart. We've got sidekick and helper, dispatcher, which is the hero sent on the quest, donor, who gives something to the hero to help them on their quest, and then false hero, trying to be the hero but is not really a good person, similar to the enemy sort of idea. Next we have bars, semiotics. So we've got, I'm not going to say the big fancy names for them because quite frankly I can't say them, so I'll just say the shortened ones. So we've got the Enigma code. You still get marked the same for it. You're not going to get bummed up a point or down a point because you can't say humanatic or proetic. If you just say action or enigma, is literally fine. Do not worry. So Enigma codes. Mysterious parts of the text which is engaging to the audience poses questions which are intriguing. This might be a rhetorical question, reading on, language, or mystery action. So think of any of your case studies. It's like in a newspaper article on the front cover, if they says ... read on page 12 to continue the article. That is intriguing the readers to, oh, I want to go and read the article. Let me carry on reading it. So things that pose a question, like Kiss of the Vampire. Why is there a kiss of the vampire? Like, what is the kiss? Because the kiss is so contradictory to the vampire statement. So why is that? We then got proetic action codes, elements of media products which signify something is going to happen as a result, such as a person pulling a gun signifying he's going to shoot somebody or conflict is going to occur. This could even be like if somebody's walking with a closed fist, it may mean they're about to punch someone, or something's going to happen as a result. Like in The Returned, when I can't remember the guy. There's a character, and he kills a woman in the alleyway, and he like has like his fists are closed. He's kind of walking the thing. So and when he's shot alone in the camera, and he's kind of being panned, and you can't really see his face. It's mysterious. It's a mix of enigma and action because you know something's about to happen. That probably was not the best example, but it's fine. I'm sure you can pick one out. Symbolic codes, symbols, an image that comes to represent someone else, like heart symbolises love. Go back to Kiss of the Vampire, a kiss signifies romance. Or we've got hearts in the Tide advert. When she's hugging the box, she's got heart codes because it's meant to infer that she loves washing up, she loves her domestic chores and the domestic sphere. Semantic codes, connotations of hidden meaning that we should understand, like the horror genre. Red and black represent this we associate with the drama. Think about, once again, Kiss of the Vampire. You have red for blood in the horror genre. You have the castles in the background. Is kind of grey, moody, monotone colour palette. All signifiers of the horror genre. Or you can even do this to The Return, where Victor is keys codes of the horror genre. He's a young child that doesn't speak. He disappears and reappears, like stuff like that. Cultural codes, parts of a media product you will only understand if you're part of the culture. This could reference a culture of ethnicity, age, gender, historical time period. People who come outside that culture will struggle to understand it, such as in Beyonce's Formation. The antebellum dress refers to the historical context and ethnicity of the era of the plantation. We also have it in, I've just thought of one that's gone right out of my head, in the Black Panther movie poster. They are stood in the formation of the Malcolm X Black Panther Party when apparently there was a photo and they matched that. So it's kind of like if you knew about the historical thing of the civil rights movement and the Malcolm X Black Panther Party, you'd see that in the post and see the reference. Okay, we've now got narratology. Once again, this one's quite hard to apply for the case studies I use, but there is some that you can apply it to, but it is quite difficult. I've just kind of kept it at the 3. I think there is 5 stages usually, but I've just kind of put it as 3 because it's just easier to understand. So we have the start of the story, which is equilibrium. This is balance. Everything is all good. Everything's fine. It's all dandy. Then we've got disruption, conflict that kind of opposes the balance, leads to a quest or leads to conflict that kind of acts as the catalyst to the story. And then new equilibrium, which is a new balance where all is good again. But however, not all media products follow this. Like horror films often begin with a disruption. Like Kiss of the Vampire, it's filled with disruption, is engaging. San Junipero, Black Mirror, it follows 2 strands of the narrative where you have got equilibrium when they're in San Junipero, but the kind of disruption is on the outside when they're actually in reality and they're in the hospital. Binary oppositions, which is also known as structuralism by Levi Strauss. Binary means 2, opposite meaning completely different. To break it down, 2 complete opposites. It's so like once you put it like that, it really just this sticks mad this way anyway. For example, men and women are often shown as binary opposite. Binary opposites is created by producers to create conflict, drama and entertainment. This can also communicate reading, such as Tide or any other wash day product. So when Tide is comparing itself to any other wash day, this creates the idea that Tide is a better product overall. It could also be cold and rainy, juxtaposed with hot and dry. This is so you can see tension and differences. Neil, genre is made up by repetition, conventional elements and differences. Audience like the repetition as it's easily recognisable. However, genres are notable for differences. This makes products more engaging, such as in Kiss of the Vampire, conventional elements of vampire movies such as the red colour palette, bats, castles. This helps us have a general understanding of the film, but the unconventional element of this is the female vampire, as in typical supernatural vampire or monster sort of movies, the protagonist is usually a male because of first thing social context, but also what society perceives as male dominated roles and female dominated roles. Audience enjoys the originality of difference. It's also seen in like hybrid genres with Black Mirror and San Junipero, which mixes romance and sci-fi. So this one I find it can be a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but once you kind of start just seeing it as like, try and find in that genre what you see as the most conventional and then what is unconventional about that product. Just kind of split it into 2, it might make it more simple to break down in your head. Postmodernism. This is the most difficult one, I'd say. Postmodernism is exceedingly difficult to understand, but it is one we have to know. So I'm going to break this down into 2 steps. So we've got postmodernism in media products. So I've got a list here of what we'd see in media products that would indicate that is a postmodern product, such as irony, parody or / homage, bricolage, which is sampling or using older media products in your own. Example of this is Beyonce and Messi Maya when she uses his voice at the beginning. Intertextual references. Black Mirror does this multiple times with the music, film posters. When what's her name? I forgot her name. but the lead female, she's getting dressed. She goes into like Yorkie, that's her name. Yorkie dresses in like pretty and pink, but then it also has a good indication to the Breakfast Club. You've got the her counterpart. I can't remember her name for the life of me today. What's going on? But she dresses as Janet Jackson in her kind of her 80s 19s era. Fragmented narratives. Sandra Junipero goes into the past and future. This is like two parallels coming across as one. Self-reflexivity, direct address. This is KSI or anything to do with your social media or YouTubers you might study, so how they talk to the audience directly. Common themes such as what if, technology, human existence. Think of Black Mirror is just an easy one to do with this one. What if technology ruled the world? What if technology helped us discover eternal life? What if technology turns against us? What does it mean to be human? These questions are asked in Black Mirror. Loss of reality, more artificial, less realism, lacking veristimulant, I think that's how you say it, lacking realism. And then we have postmodernism, which is Baudrillard, and this is the key name we do think of when we're talking about postmodernism. Baudrillard focuses on reality versus artificial. We used to see real things, peoples and stories in media, but we're now facing this loss of reality, and we are now faced with multiple artificial realities and products. So reality, we have reality, which goes to heightened reality, which is more of an intense version of reality. Think about when media products dramatise something that was a real life event, because it is more entertaining for an audience. Simulacra and simulacrum, which is artificial reality but actually has no links to reality. Simulacra becomes hard to tell apart from reality, which is hyperreality, such as KSI. How much is his real personality that we are shown, but also how much of it is this glossy artificial package that he puts onto YouTube to keep his identity online. A simulacrum is a copy of something with very little link to reality. The audience may not be able to tell the difference or even compare the simulacra to real life. In case of San Junipero, they accept the artificial reality, which is San Junipero and the creator, like when it's created by Tucker Enterprise, that this is more perfect, so they treat it as an actual reality because it is better than the reality they are facing. I've said reality a lot of times then. Gosh. Now we're going to go into representation. I find these theories much more easier to understand because they are quite straightforward. So I've got quite a few here. Some of these aren't key on the specification. They're more like, there's some here that are additional add-ons which are just useful to know and might give you some marks for like wider reading. I'm not quite sure though, don't quote me on that. We have Hall's representation. Hall outlines that media often uses stereotypes. Stereotypes reduce people down to a few simple characteristics. Ethnic minorities are often reduced to negative labels and often labelled as other. Stereotypes result in a form of inequality of power. They are often created by dominant hegemonic groups. Hegemonic groups are usually white, middle-class, heterosexual men, and these are dominant groups in society who control the less powerful. So there's a few ways we can look at it. We can look at how stereotypes are often reduced with ethnicity, and then again with women. These are quite simple to understand. So just try to go through products and be like, is these people do they have a complex representation where it's unusual to what we usually see, or does it conform to society's standards of that representation? So let's discuss is how audience get a sense of identity based on the products they consume. This creates an idea of who you are and who you want to be. What might audience learn about their own identity? In the past, media portrayed straightforward, simple representations, in particular gender, and now we have more complex representations. We can use women's realm as an example as this, as it used to kind of tell women and suggest to women what they should be by representing the women in the paper as mothers, caretakers, women in the domestic sphere who love marriage and cleaning, and this made women aspire to be these women as they were seen as kind of favourable in society by the eyes of not only media producers but dominant hegemonic groups. Mulberry's male gaze. She believes that women are often represented through the eyes of the male gaze. We are shown women in the perspective of a heterosexual male. We are encouraged to objectify them, and this is displayed in camera angles, dialogue, and costume choice. You can see this in a lot of music videos in particular. Riptile's male gaze is kind of flooded throughout the video as it focuses on kind of the violence and control used on women. We are kind of looking for women voyeuristically, and you can use the male gaze theory for that. She's found that men in film were often at the centre of action and narrative, often represented as powerful and dominant, playing an active role in the plot, whereas women were predominantly passive in the narrative and had things done to them rather than anything themselves. The narratives are heavily gendered in binary ways, so dominated and damsels in distress. To look at Van Zunen, we get the idea of genders through discourse communication of the media. We learn what it means to be male or female based on the products we consume. Repeated representations inform this. Masculinity is about being a brave, strong as a superhero, have helped construct this idea of masculinity. We believe ideas of genders change depending on context, cultural and historical context. Look at Middle Eastern women are represented in Hug, or Tide historical representation of women at the time revolves around them being in their domestic sphere, whereas Hug represents Middle Eastern women who are the freedom fighters in particularly dominant ways. Believes women are objectified in the media, treats women as objects, they are seen as sexual commodities. Believes this is because we live in a patriarchal culture. Men and women are represented differently. Women are often represented as emotional, nurturing, domestic. This is seen in The Return as Claire, the mother, is kind of seen in such a very emotional way, relying on the men around her to help her make sense of her daughter's return. Men are represented as individuals suited for business and politics, seen by Jerome as the father in The Return, who is there's a scene where he's facing away from the family and almost can't even look at them, he won't show his emotions. But then she also says that men's body are a spectacle, something to be admired, they are self-made, they are think of how men are portrayed in Men's Health and Attitude magazine. Their bodies are seen as a spectacle sometimes. They are seen obviously shirtless because it's part of the magazine, whereas women's bodies are something to be looked over, to buy, have or take. Butler talks about the idea of gender performativity. Gender is a social construct about how you feel and behave, which is feminine or masculine. Gender is constructed through performance and actions that construct our feelings of gender. This is often ritualistic. KSI talks about this with his masculine behaviours, talking about sports and women's. His online presence help construct his idea around his gender identity. We have Hook, we have the Beyond Binary section, where Jacob Tabir talks about wearing makeup and jewellery and how they construct their identity and how it isn't binary female or male. We have Arabia Felix, who is a drag star, talking about makeup and clothes. This helps construct their identity and how their identity is kind of performing these rituals that make them feel this way. Gilroy, which is post-colonial. Colonialism is taking over another country to run and exploit it. Gilroy believes that we still see the effects of this in the media today. We can see ethnic minorities are often shown as powerless, weak, dehumanised, marginalised as other. They are compared often to their white counterparts. You can talk about this, or how about in Tide, how it's very, very westernised, the product. There is not really much shown of ethnic diversity in media products still, as The Returned was an all-white cast. The return often had an allegory message which represented those who were returned as others. I think that's all I can think of right now, but it's basically how people of ethnicity are represented as other based on the idea of colonisation. Moving on to audiences, we have Bandura media effects. We have the Bobo doll experiment, which if children would mimic the behaviours of adults. If an adult played rough with a toy, so would a child. Bandura believed that children would copy the behaviour they saw in a particular violent way. So she then kind of is built on this, that if we consume violent content in the media, we'll become desensitised and mimicked it. This is also surrounded by the moral panic of violent media games, and whether kids who are playing games that are 18 when they're 12, how this affects their psychological behaviour. However, this experiment is like valid in a lab setting and had probably had the Hawthorne effects, but you don't really need to comment on like the strengths and weaknesses of this theory. You just need to be like, kind of that sentence that I've got bolded in the middle. Bandura believes children would copy behaviour they saw in particular violent behaviour. Talking about Assassin's Creed, if they saw the violence portrayed in video games, they could go on to believe them violent acts were okay to commit in wider society. Sharkey and the audiences believes that audiences are no longer passive and they now want to be more active and want to interact with the media they consume. This is because of technological advances that we change our expectations and behaviour. We want to interact with our media products. Newspapers which target passive audience are rapidly declining due to this because audience want to have their say in the media. He also believes that audiences like to speak back to the producers of media, and we do not want to be separate. We want to be involved in and control the media we consume. This is because we want to tell producers what we do and don't like, and this empowers audiences. This is kind of highlighted by Have You Heard George's podcast? He has a forum where he allows his audiences to go and kind of talk about the topics that are discussed in the podcast and talk online and join forums and find more information, which further nurtures audiences and allows them to kind of become active in the role of the podcast. Gerbner's cultivation theory. To put it simply, repeated representations cultivate our ideas, change our perceptions, change our behaviour. They are created by dominant mainstream ideologies. So if somebody or a group of people are represented in a violent way, you see it once, you probably wouldn't go, oh, okay, I've seen it once. But over time, if it's repeated over and over and over again, you might start to believe it. Such as the way teenagers are displayed in the media. They are often quite rowdy, rude, quite chaotic, something that kind of you want to stay away from. And we are seeing over and over again in the media, so we kind of expect groups of teenagers to be shown in this way. We've got Young and Rubicand's 4 C's of psychographic audience segmentations. To break it down simply, they've come up with a list of personality types that audience might refer to when they're looking for media products. So we've got mainstream, aspirers, succeeders, resigned, explorers, strugglers, reformers. If you analyse any media product, you can find, is it a conventional product? Does it conform to those who want to educate and be changed? This is kind of a simple one. This isn't a main one on the specification, but it's a good one to know. Hall's reception theories. So we're looking about how media audiences, media products are encoded with meaning by producers, and the audience are meant to decode it in the way and take away the intended message. So we have preferred reading. The intended message has been accepted by the audience. They understand and agree with it. Negotiated. The audience understand the message. They accept some parts of it but reject other parts. Oppositional. The audience interpret the media product and they do not agree with the intended message. Audience may see this in different ways due to their age, gender, ethnicity, historical context, sexualities, childhood. Good example of this is newspapers. If you read It's not the Daily Mirror, what's the other one? The Times. The Times have a largely conservative audience, and if that does not fit with your political ideologies, you are going to not take the intended message away from it and form an oppositional one where you're like, well, no, I don't want to support this conservative paper and the ideologies that they're spreading. I am probably more liberal or Labour, so I do not agree with the intended message, so you do not take away what the Times have encoded the audience to take away. I'm rambling a little bit, but I hope that made sense. Going on to the last one, which is industry theorists. So, industry theorists, we have Hesman-Howells, which is cultural industries, media companies to minimise risks and maximise audiences to be successful. Therefore, they can do this by vertically and horizontally integrating, which, if you doesn't know what it means, basically vertically, think of a piece of paper, hold the piece of paper. So if it's vertical, it's going across, so they take over companies and that can perform multiple actions, and then horizontally, company buys and competes so they can diversify. I've done that the wrong way around, but vertically down, horizontally across. Works across the variety of media products and platforms, can focus on popular genres and formats and stars, copying a format that generates guaranteed profits such as the Assassin's Creed franchise, control release schedule. This is to do with preventing loss of profit and detailed marketing campaign. Livingstone and Lunt regulation. Regulation, rules and controls that media products must follow. Regulation, they think regulation of the media is hard as you have to decide what the rules should and shouldn't be. How are you going to protect people from the harms of media products while making those products entertaining for an audience to watch, if you kind of get my gist? Makes it different because often adults often feel because once they're age of 18 they should have a choice of what they should be able to watch and what games they want to play, try and balance protecting people while offering them choice. Technology has made regulation so much harder because audiences can access anything whatever time. And Corinne is Seaton. The ways media companies are owned and structured and the way the industries run. Media industries are dominated by a small number of giant conglomerates. Media companies are all about profit and power. However, if they're small and independent, think of I. Daniel Blake, they are not there to make profit and power. They are more focused on art, representation and education. Concentrated ownership results in lack of diversity, therefore we have a lot of the same products ending up on the market, or franchises that are kind of profit formulated, but this gets rid of choice, creativity and diversity. And that's the end of it. I think I've covered pretty much everything. If I haven't, I am sorry, but this should hopefully help you get the gist of some of the theorists if you are struggling with anything. Thank you.